This is the MIAA Weekly.
Welcome to MIAA Weekly, Week 8. I feel pretty sure about that. How are you doing, buddy?
Not too bad. I'm just admiring that intro video. It's been a little while since I've been here for that portion of the show. So
that's a fair point. He ain't lying about that.
I'm admiring your handiwork there and Matt Fro Daniels' vocals. So great job.
You know what? Our guy, when Brandon Meisner started this show, MIAA Weekly, 3 years ago. I think he had you on as a guest once or twice, maybe also, but
couple times, yep.
Couldn't find anybody else. But
those were the days when I had a competent host. So
easy. Just
Brandon
because you showed up on time doesn't mean you get a chance to be all chippy. But so those tuning on in, we are a few minutes late. We had some issues with our slides. I was going to blame Dykstra, but he was already here. So
the 1 week I show up on time.
Yeah, and getting back to where I was before my CTE fully kicked in, Brandon Meisner worked with our guy Matt Daniel on that intro. At some point, we will probably freshen it up a little bit and do something. We'll have to reach out to Daniel about that because he can do the voiceover. I don't have that voice, and neither do you.
Good to have somebody else's other than me and you. People get sick of listening to me and you the whole time.
Yeah, they see me enough throughout the week. They just figure I'm the D2 podcast guy. But well, we're going to go ahead and break on into the MIAA action here shortly. We are also going to go ahead and you and I had a chance to catch up with Coach Dorrel from UCO earlier this afternoon. He couldn't make the show live tonight. He didn't want to deal with all you people in the comments, which I completely understand. No, he didn't.
He knows Doug was going to have some tough questions for him. So
that's what it was. He was pointing people out by name. But no, Coach was already had plans for tonight, so he was able to accommodate us a little bit earlier today. So we will play that here shortly. We're also going to go ahead and unpack a little bit of what happened with the Bearcats. They were upset by Fort Hays State, surprisingly. Oh, wait, no, that's not at all what happened, actually. But
lots of upsets around the league, but that wasn't one of them.
No, there was a surprise, but it wasn't an upset.
Yeah,
surprise how it was. But let's go ahead, John, and jump on into. We kind of alluded to the fact that we're going to go ahead and play an interview that we have with Coach Dorrel, but I was not expecting this type of difference in this game. I frankly almost went with Emporia because I thought their offense had been cooking. Their offense stopped cooking here, buddy.
Ooh, you aren't kidding. And their defense had no answers for Jet Huff. So that's you see this UCO, and that's kind of the UCO we thought we were getting when they were number 3 in the country to begin the season.
Right.
They had all the weapons clicking in this game, and Jet Huff was the leader of them all. So dominant performance by UCO, and now we'll see if they can continue to build on them because we'll get into it with AD, but they're not out of this thing completely yet with the schedule they got coming up.
Well, and this is, for those tuning on in who may not follow the MIAA real closely, this is what makes it probably as good or better than any league in Division II throughout the country in terms of the depth. Now, some people would say, well, the teams at the top haven't been going as far into the postseason tournament as some teams from other conferences like the GLIAC or others. Don't disagree. However, some of those conferences are a little bit more top heavy. This one here, this is where you're going to see, like when we mentioned Emporia and Central Oak, both of these teams were looking like they were kind of in the middle of the mix in regards to, the conference. But yet both of them can go ahead and Central Oklahoma, obviously they beat Pitt State. And, you're taking a look at clubs like this in UCM, and you saw the Washburn outcome we'll talk about. And This is what makes this conference, John, really full, kind of top to bottom.
Absolutely. And we're going to have a couple more scores tonight that we go through that really illustrate that. But yeah, when UCO's clicking like this, they're scary. And maybe it's fortunate for the Northwest and the Pitts of the world that are above them in the standings currently that they've already played them. But of course, they beat Pitt. But yeah, the way they're playing right now, they're capable, or the way they played Saturday, we'll put it that way, they're capable of beating anybody.
Yeah. So, without any, kind of further ado, let's go ahead and we're going to play what we when we were able to catch up with Coach. And we had an image in here where I thought it was Jet Huff, that my mistake, and I put it up when they were talking about him. Just thought I'd point that out. That was completely my error. But the interview is all ready to roll here, John. I'm going to go ahead and see if I can get this rolling here, and we will be back right after the interview finishes. Weekly as head coach of the Central Oklahoma Broncos, Adam Dorrel. Coach, how are you today?
I'm great. How y'all doing?
Pretty good.
We're doing
good to see you, Coach.
Good. Yeah, appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.
Well, so Coach, we want to go ahead and talk to you a little bit about this contest here. We're going to be going ahead and kind of breaking down the action, all our games in the MIAA this week, and pretty convincing win, Coach, as you guys go 4-3. Go ahead and break some things down for us in regard to that contest.
We felt like by far it was the most complete game that we had played in all three phases: offense, defense, special teams. We weren't perfect by any means. Definitely had some miscues. But overall, I don't feel like we had played a complete game this year. And so, that was kind of the theme all week. We just were like, man, it's midway through the season. It's time for us to put this thing together, and really challenged our guys to do that. And I thought they responded in a really positive way. And I thought we played really hard. And, if you look at us last year, we weren't always perfect, but we played with great energy and effort, and don't feel like we had done that every time this year, but I definitely Saturday felt like we did, and was just really proud of our guys.
Yeah, Coach. The headline grabber from that game is obviously Jet Huff. It's got to be nice to have him back at the quarterback spot again. But 449 yards. We got to get the SID over there to give him an extra yard, get that 450. But yeah, 5 touchdowns. Just talk about his game, and I know he's dealt with some injuries and stuff, but by far the best game he's had this year. It looks, at least statistically, it looks like.
Yeah, for sure. He was on. They came out, John, and were doing some stuff to us we hadn't seen on film, and really basically just said, hey, we want to stop the run and take away your RPOs, and really forced us into throwing the football. I thought they did a really good job of stopping the run, but obviously that opened some stuff up in the back end, and we're able to complete some really long play action passes, intermediate play action passes. But, the best thing with Jed, he was just taking what was there the entire day, wasn't afraid to check the ball down and up again, but he was spot on. And he even had he had 2 drops that I could think of that were, clear drops that if the guy catches them, they're going to be big yards as well. So, overall, just a great effort by him on the day.
Yeah. So, Coach, there's been a bit of an emergence here, I think, over the last few weeks with your defense, really.
Yeah.
And I take a look, Coach, at the last 2 contests. You guys have played Hayes. Then you guys, obviously just played Emporia. 2 squads that are very capable offensively, and you've held them well below their numbers. I know that you realize you're coming off of a game with UCM a few weeks back where things became a bit of a track meet at times. Do you feel like you guys have kind of had a little bit of a change after that period, and a little bit of we need to get back to how we can play defensively?
Yeah, for sure. If you look back before the last 2 weeks, we were playing one of the strengths that we have is depth, but probably bit us a little bit. We were playing too many guys in the back end, and we were making way too many busts in the back end that were leading to, what we call catastrophic failures where it wasn't just a completed pass. It was a completed pass for 25 yards or more, if not touchdowns. And so we haven't given any of those up in the last 2 weeks. And I think it shows. We've moved our personnel around a little bit back there, not playing as many guys, and definitely have tried to simplify what we're doing in the back end. And we look so much more comfortable in the last 2 weeks. The guys in the back end do, and their athleticism's coming out. We went on a 4-week hiatus where we didn't force one turnover. In the last, we had 5 Saturday, and the week previous we had 2. And so, again, I think those are signs when guys aren't thinking as much, or getting their eyes in the right place, and they're able to get their hands on balls and tip balls. So, yeah, it's definitely a thing that I think we have grown on, and hopefully we can continue on that this Saturday.
Sure.
Coach, you come into the season, picked to win the league, reigning champs. You suffer that setback week 1, and then you have 2 losses in the middle of the season there. I'm especially with how that UCM game ended. I'm just curious how you see a lot of teams that deal with 3 losses at this point, and it's close to throwing in the towel time. And your team obviously hasn't the last 2 weeks. Just what have you seen from your team and their response to the adversity that you guys have faced this season?
Yeah, it's been, for the most part, it's been, very positive. Obviously, didn't get off to the start that we wanted to. I think, if you look, John, at those 3 losses, I think you could argue, the 2 of those losses are to teams that are playing really good football right now. I know UTPB lost again, but on the road up in Washington, I'm sure that's not an easy trip for them, but they're a really good football team. Northwest is a really good football team. So I like our fight. Obviously, losing to UCM was super disappointing the way we lost, the missed field goal and the PAT at the end, but got to give them credit as well. They did some awesome things to us. But, yeah, our guys, there's a lot of fight left in them. There's a lot of football left to be played. I mean, if you look at this region right now, our conference, there's a lot of football left to be played, and we got to control what we can control, and that's just one game at a week and one game at a time, and just play with a great attitude and great effort. And if we do those things and energy, we're a good football team. When we don't do those things, we're not a very good football team. So, that's just been the challenge here lately, and I like how our guys are responding.
Coach, you just mentioned kind of the region and how things are playing out. You're in a new region this year. And obviously you made a trip up to Ferris a year ago. All of that has changed now. You guys are still in the hunt. There's going to be teams that make the playoffs that have 3 setbacks. Yeah. And you guys are going to have a good strength of schedule. And, one could definitely argue that you guys have had your toughest games probably on your schedule so far. You guys had a really tough start to the year in terms of scheduling. How do you see, from a bigger picture, how do you see this new super region that you're in versus maybe what you've been in the past, and kind of how does a coach in the MIAA look at that?
It's hard. It really is, because it's uncharted territory. We're with the RMAC, with the Lone Star. I'm just not super versed with those conferences. To be real candid with you, like right now, my only focus is like us winning week to week. I know if we don't do that, there's absolutely no chance. But I do think it's going to be really interesting, the fact that there's been crossover games. Pueblo has come into our league and played. Angelo State has played 2 teams. UTPB with us. And so you would think that if those teams keep winning, which I look for them to do, I just think it would potentially strengthen our schedules to an extent. But then you start getting into number crunching, and not my strength right there. That's where we need Meisner crunching those numbers for us. He was always so good at that. But yeah, it'll be really interesting. And like I said, the biggest thing for us is just take it week to week and continue to stack wins.
Yeah, selfishly, all of us at D2 are kind of curious to see, kind of like you mentioned, the uncharted territory here of, if you make the dance, who ends up making a trip to Central Washington, and who does UTPB play, and other things like that, and not to mention that Harding team. So there's a whole lot of color to your region. That's for sure. But Coach, I'm going to go ahead now and ask you a little bit about your next opponent, and Northeastern State doesn't get a lot of attention on a national basis because of the fact they're not kind of hooked up with a conference at the moment. But I got a chance to see a little bit of. They have a tight end, Cam Woods, number 88, who is a pretty darn good football player who tore up West Florida for 300 yards in the air. And this ball club has got a lot of fight in them. When you throw on the film, what do you see?
Well, they're very well coached.
Coach, let me stop you for one moment. We kind of lost you for a moment there. I had inquired with you about Northeastern. I'll let you go ahead and kind of, since our audience didn't get a chance to hear, I'll let you go again with what you have. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. They've got tremendous skill, like you talked about, starting with their tight end. That guy, I mean, he's the best tight end in my opinion in Division II football. I mean,
agreed.
The kid can do anything. He's a mismatch nightmare. If you put a smaller guy on him that runs better, he's going to use his length and his physicality to get open. If you put a bigger guy on him, he can run away from him. And so
right.
Big time matchup nightmare. They have two receivers that I feel are super dynamic. And then they have two running backs. They're both really good. They're complementary. One's a more of a fast back. The other's a big back, kind of thunder and lightning example, and he'll come in and pound you. And the quarterback, I think, is playing really well, super efficient. Defensively, doing some different things, getting some pressure, trying to knock the ball down, get some turnovers, and get it back to their offense. But, for people that haven't seen them play, they're a very good football team. They've played some really good talent this year, FCS, North Alabama, in that game the entire time, went up to Saginaw Valley, beat Saginaw, we just beat Grand Valley. And so, they're a good football team. It's going to be a big challenge for us.
Coach, and we'll just close with this. I know you've got a non-conference game this week, but the standings are there on the side of the page right there, sitting in third in the league. Couple big, I think, upsets to the people from the outside looking in the MIAA this week. So I'm just curious. It's been a very balanced league this year. Just what are your thoughts on the league in general? As you can see there, I know you're not looking at it, but you've got Kearney, Southern, and Western coming up. What are your thoughts on what you've seen from the MIAA so far?
John, it's been really interesting, and I know injuries are part of the game. I certainly understand that. It just feels like this year in the league, there's been some really significant injuries to a lot of the teams at marquee players, and that's what it feels like. And I could be dead wrong on that. It just feels like that to me. We're fortunate that we've been able to get our quarterback back and still working to get the running back at full speed. Cottrell, I think he's a difference maker. But I think if you look into the league right now, and if you look at some of the teams that maybe, you thought, well, they should be doing better. I mean, they've had some very significant injuries. Same with us, but at least with us, our guys are, on the mend and on the way back. And so that's what it feels like to me. But like you said, it's a week to week deal, and anybody can beat anybody in this league. And man, if you don't play well, you're going to lose for sure.
Well, Coach, thank you very much for coming on with us today. Good luck the rest of the season, and looking forward to seeing how you guys finish out.
Well, I really appreciate it. Thanks for what you guys do for D2 football, and thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Well, buddy, we had you got a chance there to not only hear from Coach, but you saw the standings a moment ago, and And by the way, John, you are muted at the moment.
Good reminder.
Yep. So kind of seeing the standings a moment ago, UCO's in a spot where, I mean, they're not totally out of the mix yet.
They are ready to play spoiler, I think. If one of these two teams stumbles, I disagree with Eric in the chat. I think the MIAA is getting two teams in, and I think that happens almost regardless. So if one of these teams stumble, UCO is going to be waiting.
Yeah, and Eric's got a question here. And the KPI is a measure that changes each week, the results from it. So that's pretty fluid. So you're going to ask it to change by the end of the year. It's going to change each week. So I think the MIAA is going to be just fine.
Northwest and Pitt are pretty high in it right now, and if UCO keeps winning, they'll end up pretty high in it as well.
Pitt's strength of schedule is tremendous. So as long as they keep on winning football games, I think they're going to be just fine. And speaking of kind of UCO right there and what Coach was talking about, our guy Ferg joined on in, and it's something that we were going to ask Coach. We just we just kind of ended up on some other things, and Ashton Schumann is averaging 150 yards a catch. And
hey, there's a Willie sighting in your background.
Yeah, Willie's trying to make a run in. He wanted to talk about Ashton Schumann, but he's averaging like 150 yards a week the last three, and has really stepped up in their production and helped that offense cook.
We kind of said it preseason when people were a little worried about Terrell Davis, and obviously nobody's that guy. That guy was awesome, but they don't lack for weapons offensively between Jalen Cottrell and William Mason and Schumann, and they got plenty of weapons over there. They just got to get them healthy.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead, buddy, and we're going to move on into our next contest that we're going to talk about. One that you know a little bit about. And we've got some video here that we're going to show in a moment. But, for kind of your initial thoughts, you showed up for what you thought was going to be a close football game, and you didn't really get one.
I'm always excited when I'm like, oh, okay, I got a good game this Saturday because obviously I'm watching the Bearcats no matter what. And this was one I was excited for because I was like, I think somebody said it on the Sunday show, they feel like they could stumble one of these times, and I thought this was maybe one they could stumble with, and they did not stumble. They
did not. Now, did you get
really well.
When you were on the Hayes sideline? Did you put down the waters because you were done carrying their water?
Yeah, a little bit. I saw Coach Brown after the game, and he looked like he was done carrying the water too. He was. There was behind the scenes there for how they were feeling in that game. Coach Mack challenged the play, a first down spot. You get the first down, you end it with like a minute left, and he challenged it to try to get it and just run out the clock. And you could hear Coach Brown from the other sideline. He yelled, "Come on, Mack, what are we doing now?" Because it was 52-3, and he challenged one. But
yes,
they were ready to get out of there by the end of that game.
Well, let's go ahead and we're gonna play some of that video that we've got there, buddy. And let's go ahead and at least I think we are. Here we go. And we're gonna get it full screen.
There we go.
And I'll let you chat our way through.
Yeah, Zachariah Owens right here got his first start of his career, and that kid can run. That's the first touchdown. That's his short run of the day. He's got another one coming up here a little bit later. But then he can throw it too, and Luke Matthews with a nice diving catch. And at this point, the game is already starting to get kind of out of hand because the defense is dominating too. And look at that move right there. Mr. Owens is gone once again. That's a 73-yarder, I believe. Almost gets caught at the end. Must have slowed down with the juke. But and then, hey, this one's an 85-yarder for another freshman for Northwest, Quincy Torrey. And if those two stay in the backfield together for a few years, might be a lot of fun at Northwest these next few years. But the defense getting in on it, Clayton Power, one of the best defensive linemen in the MIAA, getting in on a nice little sack there. And yeah, the Bearcats were rolling, and they just kept rolling in this one. Really, really a good performance for them.
Yeah. I mean, I flipped on through. I had a bunch of other games I was trying to be on at the same time. Grand Valley and
Mhm.
Ferris was playing Montana Tech. Not Montana Tech, Michigan Tech. What am I doing? And I'm bringing ranked NAIA teams into the conversation, but so I flipped on over and saw the score, and I was like, "What in the world?" And I thought, okay, is Hayes having a hangover from the previous game, where they lost to UCO? But you know what? Let's give a whole lot of credit to who the Bearcats are and how they are playing football right now. Because after you take a look at the first quarter of the UCM game a week ago, the Bearcats have just been red hot for 7 straight quarters after this.
Yeah, it's been since that game, they've really done against two good teams in my opinion, UCM and UCO, and we'll talk more about UCM a little later. I'm UCM and Hayes, I mean, but yeah, these are good teams, and like you said, the MIAA is deep. It wouldn't be a shocker for Northwest to lose to anybody in the league because they can kind of all beat each other to some degree. They all have talent, but to be able to do this isn't the type of score you see very often in this league.
No.
So no matter what the circumstances, to be able to do this is pretty impressive, and speaks well for what they have coming up these next few weeks as we all kind of head towards that Northwest Pitt matchup at the end of the year.
Well, it starts. I start asking questions, kind of bigger picture on how
Yeah.
good is this defense becoming. I mean, this is a dominant performance, and they had a pretty dominant performance in the back half of that UCM game, if we're going to be real honest. And the way that they made UCM uncomfortable in the pass game, and the way that they're able to get after Hayes in this one, 5 sacks, and at the same time, when we really take a look at it here on the other side of the football, when we see the ability at quarterback to make people miss. I mean, he almost looks like he's going back to pass. He sells that so well. And then by the time you realize what's happening, he's already up the field. And that can be a real dangerous deal because if you don't get him right away, he could be gone.
I had a quote. We talked to Wes Merriman. They're really good, all conference center after the game. And Wes said, it's the greatest feeling for an offensive lineman in the world because you're blocking. And then all of a sudden you look up and he says Z's 40 yards downfield. And it's like, oh, okay. There he goes. So,
right.
Yeah, it's pretty special. And the defense, I'll say too, they gave up that touch or that field goal on the second drive. There were 2 personal foul penalties on that drive to give them 30 yards. And that picture where Fredrickson celebrated and he made a toe tap interception on the sideline, that actually got wiped off by a roughing the passer. And that was one of those personal fouls. So even the drive that Hayes scored their field goal on, Northwest kind of they had a couple dumb fouls that got them in situation there. So that defense is playing really good right now, and the offense with Owens kind of feels like the sky's the limit. So yeah, it's a lot of excitement in Maryville right now.
Our guy, friend of the show, Rod Barr, who good friends with Brandon Meisner and I. Rod and I have actually gone to the championship game together a few times on our trip down from Kansas City down to Texas, and I understand Rod's point here because UCO is still about a half step behind where they were a year ago, and UCM is just having a few too many turnovers right now. Some of the things go a little sideways with them offensively. But
and Rod's speaking from a Northwest point of view too, and UCO certainly wasn't UCO when they played Northwest because they had no Jet Huff and they had no Jalen Cottrell. So
right. Absolutely. And he mentions Hayes here. I'll push back a little on this one. Earlier in the year, Hayes goes and beats Pueblo. Not everybody's going and beating Pueblo. Hayes had a time this year where they were clearly a top 25, probably even top 15 team. Feels like that time is now come and gone, and they have not been able to regain what they had offensively earlier this year. In these last 2 weeks, you've really kind of seen that dragon.
That second drive when Owens, that first highlight we showed where Owens breaks the 50-some yarder, that made it 14-0. That kind of snatched Hayes' life from him. And I don't think Hayes really wanted to be there after that, because they kind of saw the writing on the wall of that one. So I think Hayes did kind of fall back in that one, and we didn't see the best Hayes, but Northwest had something to do with that.
They had a lot to do with it. Yeah, when you get 5 sacks and a bunch of hurries, and at the same time, David mentions right here, not everyone is enjoying the resurgence here of Northwest, and that's only natural. There's a lot of rivals, in this conference that aren't probably cheering on Northwest at the same time.
Northwest and Pitt have kind of taken turns with Lowell's for a little while. David, if you're frustrated as a Pitt fan, imagine what the rest of the conference feels like looking at Northwest and Pitt as the clear favorites in the conference right now, and we're going to do this again. So
no doubt,
yeah,
no doubt. Well, let's kind of move on from kind of the two that we had kind of on what we're going to call the main card there. And some of the games that didn't maybe get quite as much shine were some of the ones like Missouri Western trying to challenge Pitt. They hung around a little bit in this one, John.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Yeah, I'm going to let you unpack being a little different than really kind of the fact that this game was within reach for the Griffins for a while.
Yeah, it was a 6-point game at halftime. This was a good game. Missouri Western, we had that conversation last week where I kind of questioned, man, these last 2 weeks, have they kind of thrown in the towel? And that defense gave up 44 points, and that's not fair to the defense from where they are. That defense certainly hasn't thrown in the towel. They played well, held Pitt down early in that game. They just need a little bit of help from the offense. It kind of feels like similar conversations we were having about Northwest last year, where the defense just keeps being put in bad positions and on the field all the time. And against a team like Pitt, eventually you're going to break. And they broke and gave up some points there. But not the greatest game for Jackson Berry. We've sang a lot of his praises recently. And he kind of struggled a little bit in this one. But I think in terms of Pitt, they ran for 264 yards against Western, who was the number 1 ranked rushing defense in the MIAA, despite all Western struggles this year. They were right up there. And
people prefer to just throw it on them, but yes.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to have the lesser of two evils there and go with that. But no, they really established a run and did a great job with that, Pitt, and won a kind of ugly game. But at the end of the day, it's a 24-point win in the MIAA, and can't complain too much about that.
No doubt about it. Next game up, Missouri Southern finds the pay window against Kearney. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I said last week that if I had an upset special, this would have been it, because I was really worried about what Kearney's offense would look like without Isaiah Harris, and I was rightfully worried about that. Southern came out, and they've been close in several of these games, and they finally broke through against a good Kearney team that I still think is a good, hard-nosed football team, but I mean, they finally got through and got that win. You look at the stats; it was a solid, unspectacular game, maybe from Tillman Martin, their freshman quarterback, but threw for 2 TDs and no picks, and just had a solid game, 10 for 15, so not a whole lot of volume. Nathan Glades continues to be healthy, and that's just so huge for them because he's a good running back, and he was their workhorse with 17 carries. So for Southern, they kind of needed that proof of concept. They got those 2 non-conference wins early and had struggled, even though playing Northwest within 7, that continues to look more and more like a great job by them. That's the closest anybody's been with in Northwest in the MIAA. So they needed that proof of concept, and they got it. And good for Atiba Bradley and that group down there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And then the final game we need to discuss, friend of the show, Bob Eblin, who is our former national writer, for those who have been checking in on d2football.com for years. Before COVID, Bob was our national writer, and he did that for many years with our guy, Brandon Meisner. And Bob and his son, who is a local high school player in the Kansas City area, made a trip on over to a visit with Washburn. And I was getting text message updates, and Bob said, UCM doesn't look so good. And he said, at one point, he said, there's 7 turnovers by UCM. Then 5 minutes later, there's 8. And needless to say, UCM with a lot of turnovers in this one, and our guy Donovan Amola with 5 picks. He was, but 5 picks in the process, and yikes! I'll let you kind of handle the other side, because it sounded like Logan Madden, the quarterback for Washburn, had a real solid game, and they kind of stayed the course.
Yeah, they've been able to throw the ball quite a bit this year, and Madden kept it going. 20 for 31, 231 yards there, a couple touchdowns, no picks. Can't ask for more than that. Ran for a touchdown as well, and that's what stood out in this game to me, is their ability to run the ball. And I know UCM's given up some running, but Washburn hasn't been able to run out anybody this year. And
right.
139 yards rushing as a team isn't going to jump off the page to most people, but for Washburn it does. And being able just to establish that run a little bit and have some balance, that's huge for them moving forward. And I think that's a really good thing for them as they try to give their quarterbacks just a little bit of help, because they've had decent quarterback play this year. It just hasn't been able to translate because of the trenches, and those guys are getting hit the whole time. And it translated on Saturday, and 6 picks for UCM because the backup had one as well after Amalo got pulled. It's going to be real hard to win very many football games that way. And after what happened against Northwest and now this game, I am really curious to see how UCM responds the rest of the season. And I hope this isn't a sign of things to come with them kind of having to throw in the towel a little bit here, because they've got some big games left on their schedule still.
Yeah. Moving to the players of the week, the athletes of the week.
MIAA offices, just a quick. It's Jet Huff, not Jeff, guys.
Oh,
let's be better about your probable first team all league quarterback.
got Mike Racy on line 2, but anyway,
Mike's the guy, and I'm sure he's not responsible for that, and I'm not going to say who might be responsible for it, because all those people there are incredible. But let's fix that next time.
Yeah. So what? Unpack some of this for us, if you would.
We already unpacked a lot about Jet. Great game for him, obviously.
No doubt.
RJ Hill, really big game for him. I should have mentioned him when we were going through the reads on Southern. There were 2 picks, including a pick 6 for RJ. And like I said, that defense has been playing better under Atiba, and they're getting it going a little bit. Just a very deserving candidate there. And then Austin Smith, he had some struggles earlier this year and came through in a big way against Western, where, like I said, that game was competitive for for over half of it, a majority of the game. It was competitive there, and he had 3 for 3 on field goals with 250-plus yarders. Yeah, that'll work in D2 football. So he's a weapon for them down the road that could end up playing big dividends, whether it be a big conference game coming up or in the playoffs later. So good work by Mr. Huff, Hill, and Smith this week.
Fair enough. And Eric is giving you a
Yes.
hard time apparently about not mentioning the TD run.
Well, that was last week, and that's not part of this week's thing. But yes, they had a very good fake field goal last week.
And Eric doesn't know that we don't talk special teams any more than we need to on these shows, and I am the one who is the reason.
I was listening to the audio version of that Pitt Northwest game while I was on another screen getting my work done here. But yes, that 53-yarder that David mentions, that had room to spare according to the radio call on there. So
he's very impressive.
Like I said, we've there may be some big stuff happening in the future with him, and he could end up playing major dividends come playoff time. So
absolutely, I would agree with that.
Now we've reached our kicker quota for the month here, so we better,
maybe for the rest of the year, in fact. But
well, it depends what Mr. Schmidt does the rest of the way. We talk about you some more, Austin.
That's a fair point. Now you and I we've talked a fair amount on this show already about kind of where teams are in the standings. Let's go ahead and bring up our top 25, John.
Yeah.
And this is kind of hot off the presses on a Monday.
Always.
And there's one thing I think that stands out to most people is Grand Valley at 25. Now the coaches had them at 18.
They were not in my poll.
I got to be honest with you, I'm having a hard time when you start to have a little bit of a who have you beaten at this point. And
that's my fault.
If Davenport's the best answer and that's the only one, then that's kind of hard to run with. But, Grand Valley's going to get the benefit of history, and I totally understand that. But they're going to have a big game with Ferris coming up. So, but as we take a look on the rest of the docket, we've got Pitt's now at 6. I saw somebody on our Twitter page for D2 belly aching about them having 2 losses and them being ranked in the top 5, despite the fact they're 6th. And nonetheless, they probably haven't watched our programming then, because we've talked a lot and defended our position on them. That's nothing real new there. But
no.
When I look down the rest, you see Northwest is moving. Let's say they're moving up in ours faster than they are according to the eyes of the coaches.
The coaches kind of win, loss, knock you down. I think ours have taken notice of where the big wins they've had. I'll say for Pitt, I am exactly where we are. I'm 6th on them in my personal ballot. I have Central Washington ahead of them based on the they've had a couple quality wins now, and I bumped them up. Kutztown I basically flipped I did exactly flip Kutztown in Central Washington, but that's really my only difference in that top 10. Besides the 10 spot, and that's where I have Northwest right now. I have them up above Duluth and above Pueblo in my one, and I don't think there's anything wrong with having either of those teams above them. Pueblo's got a little bit of that. They kind of should have lost the UCM, and they did lose the Hayes, so that's why I held them back a little bit, but they're still at that 12 spot for me. So not real different. Everybody's about where they should be, in my opinion, in what we've got up here. And even with Grand Valley, who I didn't have in mind, there's no problem. That 21 to 25, that rotates pretty consistently. So I'm okay with that. I will say one team I'm higher on than this poll is Southern Arkansas. If we're talking about region stuff, I have them quite a bit I forget where exactly, but they were probably that next line up for me, just because their only losses to Harding, and Harding is a dang good football team. So that's one person that.
Who did they beat that impressed you?
Not a whole lot. Henderson, it's hard because you can only play who's on your schedule.
Sure.
But some of these other teams have bad losses, in my opinion. And if your only loss is to a team that we have in our top 5, then I'm not gonna, or in top 2 in Harding's case, I'm treating you almost like I would an undefeated team that has not much in the way of quality wins either, where I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt against most teams. And it was a 3-score game or whatever with Harding, but it was a decent performance by Southern Arc.
Yeah, and I think Rod asked an interesting question here. Pitt's basically helped 2 teams go packing, meaning they played Grand Valley when Grand Valley was in the top 10. And they played, Hayes when they were in the top 20.
Yeah.
So, there has got to be some value to helping people leave the top also.
He's got a decent point looking back on it, though. We've kind of booed him up on that. And I think it's more an eye test when you watch Pitt right now, is that I mean, it wasn't the case against Western, honestly. They didn't look as great against Western, but they've looked really good in some of these wins. So,
they're one of the few teams that also competed with Ferris.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was chalking up the Northwest Pitt game to probably a Pitt win the last couple of weeks. The way Northwest is playing right now, though, I'm not quite as bullish on that anymore. So we'll see. I'm about 50-50 right now. So we'll see how those teams keep playing. But Rod makes a solid point there.
Yeah, and Wesley mentions Shadron here. Not that this is the RMAC show, but I think the Shadron. I think we're still waiting for them to beat a top team in the conference. They've beaten some other mid-tier teams because Colorado Mines obviously isn't what they had been. But I think everybody's kind of got an eye on them. Seeing Kearney spank them early in the year.
Yeah.
Doesn't make me feel great about him, to be honest. So we'll have to see.
Up until this week, that was what was kind of holding me back on them, because they're in that group that I kind of consider to sneak in the bottom there.
Right.
And that Kearney one was always holding me back, because I'm like, well, if I'm going to put Shadron in, I almost got to put Kearney in, because they only got 2 losses as well. Now Kearney's fallen off a little bit, so maybe that's not a barrier for them. But I kind of look at that and I question it. But they're going to have their chances down the stretch. They've got the meat of their RMAC schedule in front of them. And tune in on Wednesday to hear AC and Draper talk to you a lot about Shadron, because they're playing some good football.
Yeah, and our buddy RMAC Insider, we will actually talk about Inkblot's numbers here as we kind of wrap up the show. So we will get to that just yet. There's some when you're doing the top 25, there's also a bit of confidence in what you have with those teams when you're ranking them. So I mean, let's be honest. What it really is it's a to some extent a opinion poll is what this really is. These aren't this is
100%.
Yeah, this is not a whole bunch of other official metrics.
Honestly, if we were doing playoff odds, Northwest and Pitt would be flipped, because Northwest has more margin of error at this point than Pitt does.
Sure.
But that's not what this is. This is who we think is the better team. And like I said, I think those ones are close, but you give Pitt the benefit of the doubt with their track record. Things like that for this bowl.
Well, before we go ahead and unpack all that, we will pick the games, and then we'll go ahead and take a look at that playoff look. Now that we're done kind of looking at the top 25. So let's start off, you and I. Can Washburn stay hot? They've won 1 game in a row. We got to start somewhere. How do you see this one?
I mean, this is two teams that, if you just look at last week, are going in opposite directions. My real question is here: has Hayes thrown in the towel? Because if they have, I think Washburn's playing hard right now, and I think they could get them. I don't think Hayes is quite thrown in the towel yet.
I don't think so.
I think last week was ugly. I don't think Chris Brown's the type of coach that lets them do that. I could certainly be wrong about this, but give me Hayes to bounce back and show that they still have some fight in them. The chat is going heavy Washburn right now, and I don't really blame them. But yeah, I think picking Washburn here would be a knee jerk reaction to last week. I'm going to trust that Hayes can right the ship.
Yeah, I'm not ready to go there quite yet. I think Hayes is a proud program, and I don't think that they want the record of last week to stay on that like it is. So I'm going to take Hayes in this one.
Now I'm kind of curious to who AC has as the best defensive player he's seen all year. Parrish Terry or John? I bet it's John Johnson.
Yes.
Terry's a dang good player, though, if you catch him on the right day, for sure.
The next game we have Emporia State and UCM. How do you see this one, buddy?
Yeah, there's going to be some points scored in this game. These offenses are going to get going, and kind of the same as, well, neither of these teams had great performances last week, honestly. But I'm again going back to the track record and not worrying too much about kind of what happened last week. And I think UCM was bouncing back in this one. I think Amalu, especially him, I think he'll bounce back because that was ugly last week. And I think he's a good player and is going to be a good player in this league. And I think against Emporia's defense is a good defense to maybe get right against. So I think they bounce back and UCM gets a win in this one.
Yeah, I was a little bit concerned with the Emporia offense this last game. I was very tempted to pick them here. I do have confidence in Coach Lambo and Amolo to have good production here, but I wouldn't be surprised if this one goes the other way, but I am taking the Mules.
We're giving Rod a lot of airtime, but he's probably right. Whoever turns the ball over least.
Sure.
Yeah, that seems to be a thing for these teams.
Next one up. Kearney feels like they're limping in just a little bit here in the Northwest. And a team that's going to be physical with the Bearcats.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that they have enough firepower to stick around in this one.
Yeah, if this were Bearcats of old and weren't putting up as many points as they're putting up right now, I posted on Twitter earlier, the Bearcats are currently leading the MIAA in both scoring offense and scoring defense. They have had that kind of year this year. Without Isaiah Harris, and I don't know, Kearney is a bad matchup anyway with Northwest, or Northwest is a bad matchup for Kearney because they do pretty good stopping an elite running back. I have a hard time seeing UNK pulling this one out. I just think Northwest playing too good right now. I don't know if it'll be a blowout like last week for the Bearcats, but I think they win this game fairly comfortably.
As long as they can avoid the letdown.
That's these last few weeks. That's what I've been wondering about. Next week, we might have a talk about possible letdowns.
Southern, 2 in a row?
I think so. Like I said earlier, I was impressed that Mo West came out and fought against Pitt because that's a real easy game to say, hey, it's not all year. We're Pitt, you got higher goals, go for it. And they fought against Pitt, and that was impressive. But Southern's been fighting too. That team wants to get better. And they've been close, and they finally break through last week. And I think coming back home, I think they keep it going. I could see Western winning this one. It seems hard to believe that Western's going to go winless in the conference. So I see them getting one at some point here. I just don't think this one's it. I think Southern's playing hard right now, and they find a way to keep it rolling.
Yeah, I've got I took Southern,
Mhm.
but I have a fear that Western's going to have confidence that they can win this game, where
Yeah.
I don't know what their level of confidence was in some of the other ones against teams that maybe they didn't have supreme confidence in.
See, I don't
So,
even know if that's the issue because I feel like they have confidence when they play Kearney, and they just laid it in. But yeah, we'll see.
yeah, and as we take a look, Rod asked this question about a
Oh,
coaching change.
I hate.
I think it's only natural that when you have a program that has certain expectations, and I'm not saying that those are Northwest or Pitt, but at the same time, living kind of, if you're living a little bit in the shadow of the success of the Bearcats in a similar market right there, there's a matter of kind of keeping up with the Joneses type thing. And this is not the kind of year Coach Fenwick wanted to have. And he's had plenty of times in the front half of the season where there's games where they could have won those for sure against good opponents. But it's you're always going to be defined on your record, and that's what success is looking like when it comes to any of these teams. Is that's how you're judged.
I hate to publicly put anybody out there like that, and I think
Right.
Coach Fenwick is a good coach. He's had success everywhere he's been before. He had success at Mo West his first year here, and under Partridge as an OC. I think higher up in that athletic department might have some issues too. They have churned through some coaches recently across sports.
Gotcha.
I'm just saying it's easy to blame the head coach for everything. I think there are other issues at Mo West as well.
Well, and you're an
that,
alum,
they
so I
could
mean,
address.
you obviously follow this stuff closer than most.
Yes, I am an alum, and we've got that. But yeah, the athletic department, I think higher up, has had a lot of turnover recently and in coaching situations. So I don't think we place all the blame on the head coach, even though it's the easiest way to do it.
Well, they won't be making decisions based on our show, at least we know that.
Yeah, we're safe.
Our last game, a little bit more colorful than some of the others. We've got the President's Cup. I think that this, I think a lot of people who first look at this game just assume UCO is going to roll.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be quite like that. We saw the Riverhawks played West Florida very close a few weeks ago. I think they've got a little bit of that Saginaw in them, where when Saginaw plays a team that's considered to be higher up, they can punch with them a little bit. Now at the same time, UCO starting to cook. So UCO may still end up winning by a few scores, but let's not forget the Riverhawks a year ago had them down by 17 points, something or worse.
Oh, it was worse than that. And they gave up like 40 some in the first half. UCO had to pull that one out of the fire. This isn't. I think MIAA fans are used to UCO Northeastern State being a certain thing. They're not really that thing right now. They are playing.
No, they've had coaching turnover and things like that.
Yeah, they're playing some good football down there in Tahlequah. If this were in Tahlequah, I might consider Northeastern State. If this were UCO of a couple weeks ago, where they're still kind of getting it all back together and getting healthy, I'd definitely consider Northeastern State. I think UCO is currently the third best team in the MIAA and playing like it. And I just can't pick against them in this game, but I'm interested to watch or listen to this game. Shout out listener of the show, Todd Lisenby. I'll be probably listening to his call or tuned into the MIAA network to his call on this one, because I'm curious to get eyes on Northeastern State. You mentioned you mentioned that game with West Florida. They also beat Saginaw Valley, who,
They sure
as
did.
Coach Dorrel said, beat Grand Valley this past week. So that's not a pushover win. This is not the Northeastern State that was kind of a shoe-in for
Right.
11th or 12th in the MIAA a few years ago.
Right, absolutely. Now, with all of that said, let's kind of take a look at where the latest standings are. In your publication, John Maryville Forum, this comes out
Yes.
each week. And as we take a look, you and I are still kind of fighting there up at the top, along with Matt Daniel. That must be a misprint.
I mean, the three
Um,
voices on this show.
Now, yeah, right. Now, he's got Emporia this week, I'm noticing.
He finally went away from copying you and me. That's
Everyone's got Southern. Coach T, but I'm
that
sorry.
scares me.
That's a kiss of death right there.
Yeah, I wish I could switch to Mo West right now, because the fact that we're all picking Southern, nobody had a Southern sweep on their bingo card in the picks at any point this year at the beginning of the year. So that one makes me nervous there. And then we're all in on UCO too, and I think that's not the sure thing that people kind of typed it in as, even though I do think they will win.
Now, John, from a media standpoint, the video that we were watching earlier from Northwest, once again, that was Brett Kennedy, who's in the pick'em right here, correct?
Don't bring up poor Brett's record.
I'm not bringing up his record. I was going to say I thought he did a nice job, and I wanted to thank him for the footage. And
There we go.
And you think I'm coming here to dunk on his record? Look at you.
He's taken some chances the last few
Didn't
weeks.
even realize he was actually in last place. Now I'm kind of dunking on it, I guess.
He was talking to me. We were standing on the sideline at the Northwest game last week, and we were both looking at the Southern game and following that along. And he's like, "Sure, the week after I picked them to pull the upset," because he's like me. He's got some respect for Tebow Bradley down there and what he's doing. And he was like, "I picked them for the upset last week, and then this week they actually pull it off." So now we have to see Southern get upset this week, probably. So
well, as we kind of wrap things on up, we did kind of tease the fact that we were going to look at ink blot stuff. Now, is this the most recent one, or is this not the recent one?
That is last week.
That's a week ago, isn't it?
I think I can. We can run through it though.
We?
Let me get to it here.
Or actually, you know what? I may have it on another slide here, John. Give me a sec.
Okay.
I may have just mistakenly put up that slide. I could be wrong. Let me see. Is this correct?
No, that's the same one.
That's the same deal. Well,
Yep.
Let's pretend it wasn't. No,
I got it. I got it right here. We'll run through what. This is good because we can show what's changed from last week.
Okay. Put it back on. Okay, fair enough. Talk to me. What do you got?
No, this isn't the one. Harding remains first in Inkblot's projection.
Yep.
Central Missouri or Central Washington remains second. So those two are unchanged. Northwest bumps up one spot. UTPB lost, obviously. So that bumps Northwest up to the 3 spot currently. And then Southern Arkansas rises 2 spots there. They are currently projected to host, which would surprise me if that's the way we end up at the end of the year. But
they're going to lose to Wichita this week.
They also don't have very many tests on their schedule, and I disagree with you on that Wichita game.
I know.
But anyway, Western Colorado, big jump from 7 to 5 this week.
Okay.
They keep winning. They're going to keep climbing. So get used to that. And then Pittsburgh State at 6. So they bumped down 1 for reasons, I guess. Missouri Western's a less quality win than what Western had.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't quite know why that happened. TB, despite their last 2 weeks, stays in. They're at 7 right now. Again, if they keep winning, I think they make the field. They have eliminated their room for error, though. That's for sure. And then this week we have Chadron State replacing Kearney. Interesting, since we have a head-to-head there. Look at that. The magic of producing.
You know what? You just right from your lips right on into a slide, just like
There
that.
we go. There we go.
I mean,
So you
how
can see
impressed was that? How impressive was that for the way we fumbled through that? I tell you.
that's terrific. So you see Shadron there in that 8 spot. That 8 spot's very fluid. I think Kearney's taken themselves out of it. Colorado State Pueblo still has games against Western Colorado and Shadron State. That kind of 3-person round robin there. That's going to end up determining, I think, 2 of the spots, because I think each conference is going to end up with 2 spots. I kind of just feel like we are careening towards the conference champions are going to get to host, and the conference runners up are going to get those last 4 spots. I could be proven wrong, but I've kind of been on that bandwagon all year, and I really think that's what we're headed towards here.
Yeah, and I mean, Eric mentions here Pitt fell from 12 to 22 with a win, and the reason that you can still keep in mind these are fluid, and the KPI is going to give you a net score of how much your average outcome is and it is worth, and how much you are worth as a team. Well, when you play a bad team, you know, because they ended up playing
Western, it's a 1-win team. Yeah.
Yes. So no matter how that turns out, even with a game where they won comfortably, they're not going to get almost any new value credit for that, because that hurts your strength of schedule too. So
maybe I forgot who Western played this week. I thought Western played a bad team too. So that's the only reason I was surprised that they jumped that way. I'm sure RMAC Insider or AC will correct me.
This is why we're really hesitant with these numbers, because like when you see Shadron, for example, if Pueblo wins out, Pueblo's going to be in this, and Shadron won't. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah.
So
that's why I'm looking at it more big picture and saying I think we're talking conference champions at the top line, and then the lower lines are going to be conference runners up, and it's kind of that simple at this point. But I could be proven wrong. Southern Arkansas is the fly in that ointment if they go, because they have a good chance to be a conference runner up with only 1 loss. So there's some things that could get different there, but that's where I really feel like this is headed. Yeah, SD
whatever
Mines.
you do not take these as if they are standings.
No. This will change, and don't freak out over my team was here this week. They won, they dropped. It's part of it.
How did we drop when we still won? That's not the way this works. Here's my best recommendation for the playoff field for stuff like this. Understand every single week when it comes to this gets wiped off the page and you get reevaluated based on your current resume from week to week. So how does your resume now look after 8 weeks? How does your resume now look after 9 weeks? And then the teams are ranked.
And you do something, you get 1 game and it completely changes everything. Look at Super Region 2 right above Super Region 4 there. Right. West Florida, people were so mad. How are we 7th? We're 7th in this thing. You get 1 win over West Alabama and you jump to 1st.
And it's a massive win because they were unbeaten and they're in the top 20 of the KPI and all that.
So I don't think anything is going to jump. For example, UTB over Harding in Super Region 4. It's a little bit more locked in, but that's the kind of stuff that can happen in this.
Yeah.
I agree with Rod too in his most recent. I think UCA always lurking there. If Pitt loses 2 more games, I would say. Well, maybe 1 because they do have the head-to-head. That's a good point for Rod. If Pitt loses to Northwest,
then it opens things up more for them. And then it opens up things more for the Lone Star.
Yes. Maybe for the
Angelo's getting in before any of those teams we're talking about if they have 3 losses. Because Angelo's got 2. And Angelo's got quality wins.
Yeah. Could be.
Despite the fact Angelo is leaking oil right now, they've got quality wins. So that's going to be a bad thing.
Yeah.
That's not going to help the MIAA out at all.
Even with Pitt's insane strength of schedule. So
yeah. So keep in mind these are once again a snapshot in time, and you have a brand new resume a week later. So that would be some of the things to kind of keep in mind anytime you're looking at these. The first installment, the regional rankings come out a week from today. They come out late afternoon, if my memory serves me right, and they will be in alphabetical order, so they will be just a tad above useless at that point.
They would be fully useless in my opinion. They'd be a tad above if they were only 8 teams, but since they throw in,
if you're a team that's on the cusp, it's nice to see your name in there.
I guess so. But yes.
Well,
on that note,
do you have anything more for our folks, or how we doing, buddy?
I think we kind of summed it up. I don't think we have any questions that need answered. I appreciate Doug with the support, and I appreciate Wesley earlier with the support and shout out in the comments. So we've had a pretty civil show here in the comments. So shout out to you guys. And
Willie is making his show debut.
There we go. That'll
He's
get the
making
comments
his show
going.
debut. Willie, what do you think? Willie is telling me he's giving me his top 8 right now as we speak.
Okay. Keep it sealed till the end.
We need to go out for a walk. He's ready to go for a walk. So anyway, buddy, I appreciate everybody tuning on in, and you have yourself a great weekend.